Hi there, I'm Tony Glynn and welcome to the PGG Wrightson Stud Tour. This week we're catching up with Laurie and Sharon Paterson at Waikaka Genetics, not just too far from Gore. The family's been involved with the Herefords for a very long time. We've got the 40th annual bull sale coming up soon on the property. We've got some top class sheep here as well, so let's go and have a look around. Family's been here for a while now, Laurie?
Yeah, Tony, they came here probably about 1907, I think. Originally they had a big gold sluicing claim over on the Clutha River, and then they sold out of that, got quite a bit of money out of it, and then sold it. And they bought 1,200 acres up on the hill up there, block, when the stations were all broken up. And they looked down at this piece here, which was sold to another farmer. And it was sort of the holding paddock for the big station, so it had a little bit of green on it, and they thought that might be the place to be, so they bought this as well, which was 1,000 acres on this piece here, yeah. The Romney stud started probably about the war with my grandfather. It was flock number 749, and then that was pretty successful through at the end of the war years. They were doing a lot of rams, I don't know, probably over 1,000 rams, and then they started the Hereford stud in the 1950s. And some of that perhaps derived from the fact that they used to have a lot of cattle down at the block down south of the Lilburn Valley, and they used to bring them up here, and they were used to the bush and the Wild West guys, the way they were on horses and stock whips, and all the cattle used to jump in the trees, but the Herefords were evidently slightly slower at jumping in the trees. Their temperament was a bit better, so they went with them. And then Sharon and I got into Texels probably about 10 years ago, and we also do Romdales and Romney Texel cross rams as well, so we've got about 4 lots of rams and 1 lot of cattle that we sell, yeah.
What are you running now?
We've got 1,500 acres now, or about 580 hectares that is, which has given us a bit of scope really, and it's given us commercial sheep operation as well, which underpins the whole stud side, because before that we were totally reliant on stud sales all the time, and it gives you a chance to try things out as well in your commercial flock.
So you're running the place now also in conjunction with your son?
Yeah, Ross and Steph. He's been back 3 years and 4 years, so he's and it's going really well. We get on pretty well, and he's probably looking at more the technical side of things. I can think, gee, that's a good idea, but he's the one that can make it work, so that works really well.
No, another son too?
Yes, Bill, and he's married to Rebecca, and yeah, he's away doing his thing at the moment. Just recently got a job, so yeah, it would be really good to have them here, because he's a fantastic stockman, and he's married to a very good girl as well, and she's great with stock as well, so yep.
And she's from a Hereford family too?
Yes, she's from a Hereford family. We've done that now.
It doesn't stop?
No, it doesn't stop. It's going to be interesting to see what the next generation does, and it's quite funny because they met on a herd tour and we were quite similar. We met at a Hereford dinner as well. So
oh, yeah.
I never thought that would happen again, really, but yeah, no, they're going well.
And where did you hail from, Steph?
I'm North Island originally, so I'm from Cambridge, which is around about the same size as Gore and isn't too big a step to come down here, but we met in Dunedin, so we were there for 8 years before coming back.
Wasn't the Hereford conference, was it?
No, not this time.
No.
So you're embracing the technology on the farm?
Yeah, yep. To be quite honest, I think that Dad sort of embraces technology but doesn't want to work out how it works.
Yeah.
So we get all this gear, and to be fair, I do push for some of it, but we get this stuff and then I've got to work out how it works and then try and explain it. But definitely, yeah, technology is really helping.
Things are getting pretty techy here in Waikaka, Ross. What have we got here?
Yeah, well, this is a new monitor we've just got. It's made by Gallagher's.
In what capacity are you using it?
We've got the rams loaded on it with their all their weaning weights and wool weights and scanning data. So when we're selling, we can scan their EID tags, and that information will come up on the screen.
I suppose if you have any problems with that, you just ask Laurie. He'd be the wizard there, would he?
Yeah. No, he's had plenty of practice with these sort of things. He knows it inside out and backwards. Yeah.
Laurie can just scan it, and out she comes.
He scanned that one there.
Yep.
It gives us his breed and who his sire is. And on here he was born as a twin, and he was bred with his twin mate. When he weaned, he was 35 kilos and went on to be 52 when we scanned him in the autumn. His eye muscle area was 17.9, which was quite good.
Pretty happy there.
Yeah, and when we saw him in the springtime, he had 4.1 kilos of wool on him. So
that's amazing. So, but you'll get more and more things that you can use this for.
yeah, like all the ram lambs are on it, so we can scoot through and pick out what we want, whereas beforehand we just chuck them out by looking at them without knowing what we'd got rid of, you know.
We do Romdales, and we try to keep, and also Romney Texel cross, which we call Romex, and we try to keep them first cross, so you know, we know that to the guys buying them that they're first cross rams. That makes it a bit of a logistical exercise because we have to have a big base of Romneys as well as breeding Romney rams that can also do Romex rams and Romdales. So yeah, it takes a bit of working through. That's why it's quite handy to have Ross coming in with that, you know, the EID, things like that. So we can just sort things up easier rather than bits of paper and rattle and two people working and the opportunities to make mistakes, yeah.
Have you got quite a streamlined setup for your lambing now with all the studs?
Well, we like to think so. We tag all, well, I tag all the 4 breeds apart from Texels at birth. There's about 1,400 lambs in that. Sharon's doing the Texels, so that's about 200, and she takes time off work to do that. And Ross is doing most of the commercial ewes, so yeah, it's full on when we're doing it. And then when we, so that's just a visual tag, then when we tail, they all get a EID tag put in, and Steffi comes down and she normally sits there with a monitor, and you just scan the tag and Ross puts it in the ear, so it's just coming as they're coming through the tailing chute. So you've got to have an extra person there to do it. But after that, every time you're weighing, they're simply going through the race well, and you can record a weight every time against that animal without actually being any extra work at all.
Last mating season was the first year we had the scales draft off the two-tooths and weigh them pre-mating. So we actually had a weight for them as well. So it just went through and it was just absolutely amazing. There was Romdales here, Romex here and Romneys there, and it just all flowed and off they went. So we had X amount, off they went to the Romex ram and off those ones went, and it was all done and dusted.
There's heaps of information that you can get back. It's a matter of you've got to put the system in place to actually do it, and that's really what farming's about these days, I think. You know, people talk about the old days and how great it was, but these are pretty exciting times because there's all this technology out there you can use. If you can work a system that fits into how you can farm, then you can get a lot of stuff back out of it. We winter over 160 cows and we keep all the progeny through and sell all the males as bulls and breed all our 2-year-old heifers. We've done that since 1988, and we try and keep it simple really. We just simply mate everything, and that's the first test. They get in calf. If they don't do that, well, they're gone, and then the next test is they've got to have a good calf. And it's interesting, like the genetics and the cattle thing, the breed plan thing really helped our genetic progress, and we'd tried 2-year-old heifer breeding before that, probably by mistake sometimes, but you know, cattle just simply, they couldn't do it, they weren't up to it, they weren't big enough. So now we've lifted the size thing, we've got the milk thing right, and yeah, cows having good calves at 2-year-olds, no issue.
You've been breeding cattle for a long time now. What type of bull are you trying to get there now?
Well, we've always liked cattle with good thickness, and initially our success breeding bulls probably started with a bull we bred called Waikaka Southland, who was a B+ muscle bull, which is fairly unusual in Herefords. And then we went up North Island and we bought a bull called Hikatu Lightning, who was another bull with thickness and bone and same type of animal. And in a way, that's how the Texel thing fits in with us pretty well too, because it's the same thing, thickness of carcass. And when you're looking at a lot of animals in the chiller, you know, they're the animals that the processor wants really. He wants those ones with that bit extra muscle, little bit of fat, good eating, you know, because that's going to make his business go. And we do have to be careful, I think, as we're into the age now of the performance recording thing. It's just another tool and we have to use it, but we have to be careful when we just breed completely on indexes, and you've still got to let your eyes do a bit of the work and pick out those bulls probably that are high indexing bulls, but also have thickness and you know, a bit of substance to them.
What's your ratio there with your polled and horned?
Probably about 30% polled and 60% horned. Yeah, I mean, I think the Hereford breed's quite unique in a way that it's got, you know, or it is a benefit that we've got those 2 strains in there. So, you know, we need to be able to just spread that out a bit and bring in some some other genetics, and in the case of pole breeders that might have been breeding pole cattle for a number of years, they can bring in some horn genetics, which has probably got a bit of hybrid vigour in it because it's a totally different strain. So that's all good. I think that's the strength that the breed's got. We've AI'd a lot of cattle. What we've been doing 50 or 60 a year for a number of years. One of the problems we have, like a lot of those genetics, obviously they're coming from overseas, they're being used in different environments, and I think the North American thing, the way they do it is just different to what we do. We're doing it off grass and they're doing everything through a feedlot, and if they're feeding cattle for 120 or 130 days, well, they can be putting pretty big, not preps so it's easy doing cattle in there, and they can get an end product out of it. But in New Zealand we're doing it differently. We're doing it off grass, so we have to have easy doing animals that can finish soon. And so I think while there's been some very good bulls been brought into New Zealand, there's probably been a few that haven't really delivered what the breeders would have actually wanted. So
not too far away from the 40th bull auction on the place coming up?
Yeah, no, 40th this year, so that'll be a big occasion. Yep, and Hereford on farm here as well. They've got a ring over in the selling shed over there, so yeah, it's a pretty main event on the calendar, yeah.
The dairy side of it becoming more part of it now, Callum?
Yeah, well, obviously the Herefords have got the marking abilities, and there's a lot of dairying around in the southern side of Southland there, and into Otago. So yeah, the Herefords have sort of got a bit of popularity there, and yeah, it's something we do sell dairy bulls here. So yeah, a few of them go out the gate to the dairy farmers here.
Yeah, and they getting the gorse out of their pockets?
Oh, trying to every year. We try to work on it. So, yeah.
We came up here 20 years ago, had a sheep and beef and cropping farmer and deer farm down at Dacre.
Yep.
And moved up here 20 years ago just to get a bit bigger.
And you're running quite a decent sized operation here with the dairy?
Well, it's expanded a wee bit over the years, and we're running 1,300 cows, self-contained, so we winter on, run our own heifers, and rear quite a few beef calves, and keep our bulls through, keep them 2 years, and it keeps us occupied. Very distinguishable for a start, but we like them anyway, like the beef, the Hereford beef. Between Laurie and I, we get it sorted out. I pick the ones that I like the look of, and then he can tell me the information about them, especially about low birth weights.
Yeah.
And we've been really pleased with that part of it all with Laurie.
What are some of the other important things that you're looking for there when you're looking at the books?
Well, actually size and ranginess. Good back end on them, so that their progeny are going to do very well for those who buy our bull calves. And but we also, to be fair, we do keep most of them ourselves. But and obviously that's what we want, is good beef at 18 months old. So we can get them away to the works in year and that without having to winter twice.
I was a counsellor on the association. I was pretty lucky because I was in tow with a guy called Don Goodall, who was a deep thinker. I've heard people refer to him maybe a bit as the mad scientist, because, and he was a bit, I think he was way out there thinking of the Hereford Prime thing, which is was the first branded beef program we got going. And it was Don's passion initially, I guess, because he was sick of eating steak that was inconsistent and wasn't good enough. Maybe his teeth were getting a bit dull, I don't know. But when we started that off, so him and I decided we'd have a crack at it. So part of that is to give information back to farmers on meat colour, fat colour, and trace marbling and ribeye size and things like that. If the program pays a bit of a premium for these sort of animals, then there's opportunity for the farmers to actually tailor their bull buying decisions, if you like, back to the end use. And there's a lot of talk now about paddock to plate and all the rest of it, and really that's what we've been doing that for 25 years, whatever it is, because that's exactly what it does. And we're processing something like, we are processing 700 head a month, and these are Hereford cattle or Hereford first cross cattle. So there was quite a bit of effort went into leaning our cattle out and making them bigger, and certainly done that. You get paid on weight, so that's good. But I think now there's a bit of a tendency back, and you see that with guys buying bulls, and also reflects in the cows that they're running on the hill country. You can have them too lean, so you need guys now are constantly buying bulls, probably with positive fat. That's good for what's happening in their cow herd, and it's also good for a quality beef program like Hereford Prime.
So I hear you've got a fairly flash setup here in the yards, Laurie?
Well, it's a bit of an upgrade, Tony, what we used to have a few years ago. Spent a bit of money here. Ross put a roof on and we built these new yards. And we've got a Te Pārai hydraulic crush up the front, but in order to get the cattle in, we've put in these hydraulic gates. And the system's set up so you can work the gates from anywhere on either side of the crush, top to bottom. So this rope here works the back gate, so if you want to open it, you just pull it forward, and if you want to shut it, pull it back, and that middle gate there is exactly the same, and it means that if Sharon, for argument's sake, is bringing cattle in at the end, she can actually work the gate from there without coming up and down the race. Or if Ross is up there weighing and he needs to open a gate, he can do it from up there without actually having to jump up in front of the cattle or do anything like that. So the cattle just flow through all the time. And most of the time when we're working it, they flow so well, we just often leave the gates open and we just be working up the front and they load themselves. Under your feet here we've got a calf race, so it doubles as a catwalk. And when you want to do calves, you just flip these sides up, just like up there, put the gates across, and the calves run round here and into the crush without turning around. But it's good now, it's all set up really for one-man operation. You can sort cattle in there on your own, and you can work the crush on your own most of the time as well, with cattle coming in, so it's good, frees up labour.
Yeah, so 3 Hereford studs involved in the family.
Yeah. Sort of spread throughout the South Island, really.
You'd be too scared to change breeds.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be fair.
Do you find them they're getting crossed over more different breeds all the time, the Texels?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, they've got a huge place in the New Zealand market, and we've got to remember what they're actually brought into New Zealand for. They're actually brought into New Zealand for meat. Meat was first and foremost, and we have deviated away from that a wee bit by getting a more of a dual purpose animal here in New Zealand, but they are still better for the first cross, and we need to, as breeders, we need to remember what they were brought here for, and that was the meat. And sometimes if you get them a bit long and a bit stretched out, they lose a bit of the muscle and a bit of meat with it. So we're trying to breed to our market, and our market is the first cross and selling the, most of the farmers use it for first cross over their ewes and not always retaining the ewe lambs, so we're using it as a meat breed. You do have to be careful at lambing time. My stocking rate is a lot heavier than Laurie's. I've probably got another 3 to 4 ewes to the hectare than what Laurie does, just so I don't have to pull any lambs. First 5 or 6 years I actually learnt by trial and error, and then I actually lambed behind a hot wire for a couple of years, and this year I just got the stocking rate so tight that they just easily lambed. I lamb my hoggets in with my ewes, and then it just flows nice and easily. We lambed second week of September, and I can't do my weaning until I finish work, which is between Christmas and New Year, so I chose 28 that were singles and things like that I was not going to breed from. I was going to cut their heads off, and I flicked them back with their mothers and killed them first week in January. Now I got 100% in the yield grading. They averaged 22 kilos. Unfortunately, won't discuss the price because it wasn't flash, but the yields were absolutely amazing. One was 60.5 kilos when he went on the truck, and he hung up at 31 kilos. So that, to me, it gives me a good line of figures for my sires to see what my sires are producing, and some of them were by that Glenvale 3 of 10 that we had the ewe lambs weighed off earlier today, and they looked really good. So I know I'm getting in the right yield grade, I'm getting everything in the right holes, and now that, although they are dead of course, will go through to my SIL figures as well. So it saves me carting live ones up to Lincoln because I've got a good line and they've already gone through Alliance and got all the figures back on. I've never had the numbers up until now, and because I've been so hard on structure over the years, I wouldn't sell anything that wasn't structurally sound enough for me to keep myself. So my priority, or our priority here on the farm, whether it be sheep, cattle or what it is structural soundness. If they can't walk and they can't eat, then they're a waste of time. So that's why this year I've got enough to actually be able to on-sell some more that I'm happy structurally sound-wise that they will go out and do good for somebody else.
Bit of a market out there for the Texel ewe lambs, Callum?
Yeah, no, I think as a breed, the Texels have sort of been quite popular the last couple of years, and yeah, certainly shows that in the ram sales, and yeah, Sharon's had a bit of success over the past and with her rams, so that's a good ewe lamb.
It is a good ewe lamb, eh? You can read the tag.
Yeah, and they're looking after a couple of breeds each.
Yeah, well, I think the rule is that if it's pure Texel, you talk to Sharon. If it's 3/4 and under, you talk to Ross and Laurie. Yeah.
Now, you've been returning to the Patersons, your family has, for quite some time, sourcing rams?
Yeah, Dad started coming in the 60s, and he bought from Eric Paterson, Laurie's father, and I started coming with him in the 70s, and have seen no reason not to keep coming.
But obviously not buying them just for the tradition.
No. I still feel I'm making a decent living out of buying them.
Yeah.
I heard years ago someone said you shouldn't buy rams from the same place just because your father did. I reckon you shouldn't stop buying them there just because your father bought them there.
Yeah.
And I still like the rams. I am a big fan of wool, and they grow a good style of 37, 38 micron wool, and they produce good lambs. So yeah, I've seen no reason to go elsewhere.
Yeah. The first time this year you've been using a bit more technology there when you're buying the rams with the wand and things there.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy that?
That was different. Yeah, it saved shuffling through bits of paper and looking up books to get the information. Yeah, it was a pretty instant readout. Yeah, Ross seems to have got it going pretty well. So.
What were some of the main things that you were looking at on the rams today?
I like a good covering of sound wool, but also the eye muscle is very important. That indicates what the yield will be, and nowadays we're paid on yield. And of course the growth rates, because the meat has been the main source of income for sheep farmers in quite a few years now. So, but just good sound, well-conditioned sheep.
A few lambs on the truck this morning.
Yeah, that was 280. You know, farming's come a long way in the last 30 years, I think, because, you know, we used to be sending lambs off at, you know, 13k lambs. Well, you know, now we're sending all our lambs off, not just us, but other farmers as well, you know, at 18k's or better. And we can do 150% lambing without worrying too much about anything. It just sort of happens. But Romneys aren't what they used to be, because there's a photo taken here back in the 1920s with bloody those old 1920s cars, you know, Al Capone stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got these rams here, and they look exactly like the rams today, big open-headed rams. And then we've got photos of the 1950s, and Christ, you know, they can't see where the hell they're going, They're just like hedgehogs these days.
Yeah.
So we've gone full circle a bit. But that's back to a lot of that probably was a labour thing as much as anything, But way back early, they didn't have enough labour. Then they had people on farms all the time doing stuff, you know. And like we've got 3 farms now. All of those farms, when I was a kid, they all had one single man work for them. This place here probably had about 6 and 2 married couples. So when the labour thing went, probably in the 70s and 80s, and we had to think of other ways, well, that all stopped, and that's been a good thing, because survival of the fittest. And that's why, you know, the thing about the freezing industry thing of the $60 million that's going to actually be good for the red meat industry, and farmers are going to get more clever behind the farm gate. Well, that's all good. We can all get more clever, but the $60 million will be better spent in the labour-intensive part of it, amalgamating the 2 co-ops, I reckon, and getting them into robotics as fast as they can go, because, you know, we can't be a cheap labour country anymore. We've got to have technology. That's how it's got to work. Otherwise, we just won't be able to sell our products. Quite sure of it.
My generation, and I'm getting close to 50, a lot of them started with nothing. So by starting with nothing, they hang on to it tighter. Sometimes it's too hard to let go, and they're always scared. They're scared of change, and they're scared that the next generation will do it a little bit differently, and they may actually be better than them as well. It's really important to the New Zealand farming industry that we get this right. My concern is that we're selling off too much of New Zealand land to overseas buyers, and if we can actually smooth our transition from one generation to another, it would make life much easier. It is harder for the next generation to get into farming now because of farm prices, etc. But we need to be looking at it sooner. We need to be talking to the younger generation, saying, okay, getting everybody on the same track and the same goals and heading the same direction. And at times they're going to come up and say, oh no, we want to deviate off and go somewhere else. That's fine, let them. If you hang the washing out, as long as it gets dry, it doesn't matter how you do it. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's upside down, doesn't matter if the pegs don't match.
Do you know I love you?
Do you?
Yeah, because I'm on your side with that hanging out the washing thing, but
Because
carry on.
it doesn't matter, as long as the washing gets dry.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how it's done. It's the same with jobs on the farm. It mightn't be how you've done it for the last 50 years, but if the end result is better or equal to what you had before, what does it matter how it was done? So this is what we have to be aware of, and it's not a matter of letting go, it's a matter of working together as a team.
For more information on the PGG Wrightson Stud Tour, visit ruraltv.co.nz and come and join us on Facebook.